Inflation jumped to 5.5% this month, and many people think it'll be the biggest economic threat we face over the next few years. So what is inflation? And what can we do to protect ourselves against it? Basically, inflation measures rising prices. The current rate is 5.5%, so that means that prices have gone up by 5.5% on average over the last year. Things get a bit more complicated when we look at what causes inflation. Now, this is a really controversial subject. As far as I'm concerned, there are two main causes. If there's more money flowing around in an economy, you'd normally expect inflation to rise. Here's why. Imagine you're on a desert island with 9 other people. You all do different jobs on the island and buy services and goods from each other. 3 people hunt, 2 cook, 1 builds shelter, and so on. You use bottle tops as your currency on the island. At the moment, there are 50 bottle tops on the island, and there's a well-understood price list for different things. A dead rabbit, for example, sells for 2 bottle tops. Now imagine that one person suddenly discovers 20 extra bottles in the wreckage of a crashed plane. Suddenly, there are 70 bottle tops on the island, and at least one inhabitant will be able to pay more for a rabbit. Prices will rise. If a government dramatically increased the supply of money in an economy, perhaps by printing extra notes, you could expect to see the same phenomenon. All other things being equal, more money in the economy should lead to inflation. The other main cause of inflation is rising costs. If a company has to pay higher wages, it will want to raise its prices to get the extra costs back. And the same thing happens if the price of oil or another commodity rises. You may have seen 2 different inflation figures mentioned in the press. One measure is called the RPI, that's the Retail Price Index, and the other is called the CPI, Consumer Price Index. The government prefers to use the CPI, which is normally lower, but I prefer the RPI because it includes housing costs. Right now, the RPI is at 5.5%, while the government's favourite, the CPI, is at 4.4%, well above the 2% target. The main reason for that has been higher prices for oil and food. What's more, the Bank of England has created lots of extra money since 2009. Trouble is, most savings accounts these days are paying out very low rates. Even the very best instant access account pays barely more than 3%. In other words, you'd still lose out to inflation if you put your money in this table-topping account.
There are a few accounts out there that offer 8% or more, so they beat inflation. But they're regular savings accounts, which means you have to save regularly, you can't put in a lump sum, and there are lots and lots of restrictions and conditions attached. Another option is to go for a fixed-rate bond or a cash ISA. But even then, you're unlikely to actually beat inflation. You might just about manage to match it, but you're not going to manage to have a competitive rate all the time because rates might rise and your rate will be stuck and fixed at a set level.
If you want to make sure that your money keeps up with inflation, then an index-linked product can be an attractive option. If inflation soars to 20%, the rate on your savings account will soar too. Trouble is, index-linked savings products are very rare at the moment. I know of just 2, and they're both offered by BM Savings. Let's start by looking at BM Savings' 5-year inflation rate bond. You have the peace of mind of knowing that for 5 years your return is linked to inflation. You can't access your money for that period, but each year you'll receive 1.5% plus the inflation rate for that year. So if inflation is 3%, you'll receive 4.5% in interest. And if inflation is 20%, you'll receive 21.5%. So if inflation takes off, you won't need to lose sleep. Your money will retain its value. What's more, BM Savings uses the RPI measure of inflation, the one that currently stands at 5.5%. BM Savings also offers a 3-year bond. It pays the rate of inflation plus 0.75%. So if inflation is 5%, you get 5.75%. It's a lower rate than the 5-year bond, but you only have to lock away your money for 3 years instead of 5.
Sadly, it's never easy to fight inflation, but there are normally a few inflation-busting weapons out there. You just need to know where to look.